Hello and welcome. Today is Friday, the 23rd day of January 2050. My name is Derek. Welcome to today's silver chart update. Let's start off with an update on January Silver Eagle sales, which the website reports at 4 2/3 million, which is barely below last year's level and still much below 2013. So it's probably going to finish closer to 6 million. And beating last year's number. And so many people are getting into precious metals, mainly gold and silver, for the same reasons. Vladimir Putin in Russia, I heard the Russian holdings is increasing dramatically. Companies, maybe them too, but countries wanting gold in their possession. Why would this be the case? Well, look at their world or their country's currency, their fiat currency. It's extremely underinflated. Oh, that's a popular word going on right now. Underinflated. This silver price I consider to be highly underinflated. That's my point of view. And the reason why that word is popular today and this week is because of what occurred last weekend in pro football within the semifinals AFC Championship game, where it was reported that New England Patriots head coach had underinflated 11 of 12 balls. Well, that's 11 balls more underinflated than all countries' fiat currencies that are underinflated because they're all overinflated. But I'll talk about that situation of the underinflation footballs at the end of the silver analysis. I'm also going to talk about the Pro Bowl with a lot of significant key information that can help for betting on the total, as well as a daily fantasy information to help you win your leagues or help you cash your fantasy game. So we'll talk about that at the end. Now let's talk about this chart. The day ended with a loss of 4 cents down to 18.29, pretty much a nothing day. And I want to talk about each day, day by day, starting within the day of break of established resistance of 17 1/3, thus confirming or making this market in a mode of a bull market status. It has continued to go higher, but the next session followed, making new highs from the previous day. Not a big surprise when it closes at the highs of the day, but barely going lower. It didn't have a big sell-off, but didn't even have an intermediate sell-off. That's a nice looking sign, but the next day it followed up even stronger. It had a matching low and high for the most part, but it closed at the highs of the day, following the next session by going up significantly higher, about a good $0.50, few percent anyway. Yeah, it did close to the lower part of it, and that was a little bit of a concern, but the next day followed with a move where the highs and lows practically were the exact same. Technically, the high was a penny lower, and the low was a penny higher, making it an inside day like today's was, but closing higher, not selling off, establishing an uptrend within the week anyway. So I talked on Thursday morning about testing this level, probably that day or Friday, and it didn't do it. But again, it didn't sell off either. Thus, in a pause mode, looking more as if it's going to test this point here. In a situation like this, where you come to a key selected Fibonacci point, what I'm looking for as the favorite or the more likely scenario is some sort of level of resistance. It may only be about a 3% down move, maybe down to 18, this 18 average band, and maybe even as far down towards this Fibonacci mark at 1681. That would be the area you'd expect it to correct towards. When that happens, you go up here, you come down, and then you come back to that level, it increases the chances that you take it out. Now, other things that are common as well is if this thing keeps going, breaking above it, yeah, it could pierce above it and resist higher. But if there isn't going to be resistance here, it's not a surprise to have significantly sized up moves, upsized green candles, that are within high volatility. So you have a move here that's like about $1. Well, maybe you have $1.50 gain in one day, or maybe you have $2 gains in a row. Those are the types of situations that can occur if a key Fibonacci or a key significant resistance, Fibonacci being one of them, is not that. One other thing is that it finds that level for support. But for now, still looking for a test of this area, with the next level of support being this 18 average band. Let's move this to the weekly. Within the week, it was a gain of about $0.50, 2.3%. There was a downtrend, so the stages I'm looking for these things to reverse. Band flattens out, establish a level of resistance, come back to the band, and then break established resistance. That test really hasn't been in play. This was close to breaking the established, but it never even tested it or got to its exact number. Thus, when you start to see, okay, well, we're at support, time to be concerned here, you're concerned here, but you're even more concerned when it breaks the key support level. So those are those are the types of situations. So the most likely resistance level is in at about 19 per ounce. But even now, if this is the top, this is far enough for I'll state this to be an established level of resistance. Come back. That's the type of move I'm looking for to say that the weekly chart, like the daily newly is in that of a bull market, as I stated on the daily chart. If this level is not resistance, those three things that I talk about, same thing here as well. So now let's talk about the DeflateGate and AFC, NFC Pro Bowl selection and daily fantasy. So for those of you tuning out, thank you for watching. Within this game last weekend, what occurred was Tom Brady I'll say Bill Belichick, of the coach of the Patriots, apparently had 11 of the 12 game balls that were underinflated. And within conditions of rain and cold, the balls get really hard. It can actually be an advantage to do such within. Now, apparently I'm watching a report from Fantasy Sports Network recent this week, where they mentioned looking at previous New England home games within poor rainy conditions, and how Tom Brady and company not only do very well, but their stats are up there within great weather condition games. And according to Vegas, they have crushed the number as far as what they're supposed to win by and how many points they're supposed to score. I find that a little bit interesting, but two things makes me question it or shake my head, like scratch my head. Why is this happening? Why is this being stated this way? Number one, all these Patriot fans, it's not like we needed it, yada, yada, yada. We kicked their asses. We won by like 4 or 5 touchdowns. So, well, yeah, of course, but still, that's not the point. But why do I not hear about the league officials not being able to test these balls beforehand? Why don't they supply the balls to the games? I kind of wonder about that. Maybe there's rigging going on. After all, if I don't know, I question these things, make news stories. I don't know, but interesting to say the least. Now, as far as betting selections for the Pro Bowl, there's no over-under from what I can see, although I heard in one site that the total was in the mid-70s. Wow. That's a big number. And the play is under the total. Anything under 64 is awesome, in my opinion. And I say that because the metagame has changed huge for the Pro Bowl. It used to be AFC versus NFC. Now it's a retired NFL player drafting players and another retired NFL player drafting players. Well, last year, all of a sudden, defenses started trying a lot more than they did in previous years. So we went from having 40 to 37 scores all the way down last year to like, I think it was a 24-21 score. A normal NFL score, to state the least. That's changing the metagame, and I think that's going to continue on to this year. Play the under. Fantasy. I have seen one fantasy website combine the Pro Bowl and the Super Bowl. You can pick 4 defenses. You can take the Seattle Seahawks, the New England Patriots, or either one of the 2 Pro Bowl defenses. You have to take one and only one per lineup. Well, even before last year's amazing defensive game, and there was a lot of sacks, interceptions last year, but there's been a lot of interceptions always in the Pro Bowl. Because if the defensive backs, who are awesome skill players, because that's why they're there, if they can't or don't physically play the man or the receiver like they do in the regular season, that means they're going to aggressively play the ball, and they're going to get a lot of interceptions. Going back to 2001, 8.5 fantasy points is the average amount of points that the defenses have scored. 8.5, which is pretty good for 8.5 is what top defenses or decent defenses score. I like to get 10. So what I'm doing in fantasy is I'm playing half of my lineups, or half of my dollar values will be with one team defense, the other with the other one, because they are priced so cheap for a third of the value a defense normally goes for. That's rock bottom prices, which gives you easier shot of putting good players on the rest of your lineup. So I'm going to be putting those defenses together in my lineups, both team, I can't remember who the teams are, at least the name of the people they're playing against, because I expect points out of them. And I'm hoping that combination of people not playing those defenses, thus playing either the Patriots or the Seahawks because they're a Pats fan, they're a Seahawks fan at least for that Sunday, or maybe they're like, oh, it's a Pro Bowl. They're priced so cheap. You got a 30-34 score. I don't want to play a defense there. Yeah, you're going to get sacks, you're going to get interceptions, maybe you get an interception for a touchdown. There's been a lot of them in Pro Bowls before in the past. Kick returns for a touchdown. You got the best kick returners in the game. So thank you for tuning in, and have yourself a magnificent weekend. Bye-bye.